everybody! Welcome to another episode of The Way of the Movement Professionals. My name is Maiko Morotani. I am a physical therapist, a president of Nexus Motion, and currently one of the directors at Learn Movement System. Today, I am really excited to be talking to the one and only Dr. Emily Scherb, also known as the Circus Doc. So please enjoy this episode. And if you feel moved to do so, it would really help us out if you hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Thanks so much, everybody. Emily, thank you for being here with me today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get to chat with you a little bit.
Of course, of course. Well, I just want to dive right into it. Now, I think you went to undergraduate and for physical therapy school. Both of them were at Washington University in St. Louis. Does that mean you're originally from the St. Louis area?
I'm actually not. I am originally from the New York, New Jersey area, so on the East Coast of the United States. And I went to undergraduate at WashU, and while there, found out about the PT program. And when I learned that the PT program really looked at things through movement, as a person with a strong movement background myself, I was really excited and interested in learning that way and really got lucky as I didn't look into that many other PT schools. So I got very lucky on my first try on finding a good fit when it came to a school and education.
That's very cool. So you kind of knew about your path since you have such a strong movement background. Um, on your website, cleverly titled thecircusdoc.com, um, on your website, it says you have been practicing you have been a practicing aerialist for about 30 years. Now that makes me wonder, have you been like doing circus since you were like one or two? I don't know, but like how did you get into hanging from all kinds of things?
That is a nice way of asking what I usually get, which is, were your parents in the circus? They were not. So I started doing circus when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And I started at a summer camp where they had circus as an activity you could do. I had already been a gymnast. I was a competitive gymnast when I was a very young child. And by the time I found circus, I realized that getting applause and cheers was more fun than getting a score. You still had the same sense of achievement. You seemed to have the same challenge of the body. You still had learning and growing and new skills to learn. But instead of getting judged, you got applause. And I thought that was just the coolest.
I remember there was a great gymnastics movie. I forget where the main character just like pulls purposely pulls off the shoulder and then pulls on her sports bra, which is like totally outside of the rule, and she just was like, forget the scoring, I just want to do my movements. I forget the title of that
Oh my
movie,
gosh,
but I
I know exactly
remember.
what you're talking about, and I'm blanking on it too. It's killing me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It could have been like, I don't know if it was like Snatch or no, maybe I'll have to look it
Oh.
up. But
Oh,
anyways.
it's gonna come to me. Hopefully, but hopefully before we end our chat.
No, that's really interesting about like, performing for getting the score versus really just enjoying and have people truly appreciate. Like, they're just there to see you move and do these amazing
Yeah.
cool stuff out there. So,
One
yeah.
of the other things that's really interesting about the difference between the two from a clinical perspective or from like a sports perspective is that when we're doing gymnastics, like you are supposed to be doing your peak performance at the competition, right? Everything you do, it's like running a marathon. You want to have your fastest time at the marathon. You want to have your best performance at the meet. But doing circus, it's all about being perfect. So you actually do your most challenging work in the training stages and much less at that actual performance time. And so it does change the injury pattern too, which is just fascinating and a whole other topic.
You know what? That I had no idea
Right?
about like where to peak yourself. That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, just those little things that I'm like, oh, that blows my mind, but also makes so much sense, right? When you see a performance, you want to see the artist executing brilliantly and you're not going to be worried, about doing that movement. You want the artist to just be moving through space, and maybe they do it for show, they make it look hard, but they know exactly what they're doing.
So awesome. Now, so from early on gymnastics and then finding circus, uh, you've really appreciated all throughout your youth about the importance of movement. So going into undergraduate, like for university, did you have a hunch that like you wanted to go into physical therapy?
I was pretty sure I wanted to do something with orthopedics. I didn't know if I wanted to go be a orthopedic surgeon or a chiropractor or a physical therapist, or I don't think I even knew what an occupational therapist was. So I had a little bit of like self-education to figure out which path I wanted to go on, but I always knew it was always about the body. It was always about the musculoskeletal system for me. So I did know that going in, and then it was just how do I want to interact with my patients? And I came down to I wanted to actually spend time with people and get to know them. And that's really what kind of tipped things in the physical therapy direction.
Yeah, me too. I think the time spent with the patients, I think that's what also drew me to
Yes.
physical therapy compared to other healthcare professionals. Um, Now, what about like injuries when you were younger and then all those years of, I mean, it seems like really tremendously hard on the body what you all do. So, did you do all right in that aspect?
I did all right. I definitely have had injuries, more sprains and strains than broken bones, which is great. Um, but it all comes back to the load capacity, building that up and keeping it strong, having the baseline as a gymnast and being that strong going into circus made me a lot more robust. The circus is a lot of bruises and pressure on the body, but there are also injuries for sure. So I say I did pretty well, but if I do like a brain scan of all the injuries on the body, there's not much that hasn't needed a little extra special treatment. So
Yeah.
I've torn muscles in my hand. I've caught my thumb on someone as I was rotating, and so tore some muscles there. Wrist sprains, elbows have been pretty good. I've dislocated both my shoulders. One was jumping on the bed when I was 3, so that doesn't even like that was before circus for sure. So it's already a little predisposed to that. Um, some history of low back pain, some sciatic issues. Some I strained my psoas pretty well one year. Actually, holding safety lines for someone else, keeping other people safe is dangerous. Ankle sprains, PCL tear without tearing my ACL, which I think was pretty special.
Right.
Broken
Wow.
toes,
The whole gamut
the
from
whole
head
head
to
to
toe.
toe, head to toe.
Yeah. Well, that also makes your clients and patients that much more relatable to you. I know that, like many of my patients who have just gone through shoulder surgery, their eyes kind of light up a little bit when I tell them, "Oh, I also had shoulder surgery some years ago," and they're like, "Oh, you have, so you know what I'm feeling," and so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think it does make them feel better. And now that it makes them feel better. It helps them understand. I also feel like I have an understanding of the way I was trained and some of the things that could have been better. Not that my coaches did anything wrong, but that the knowledge just wasn't there. Um, and now one of the biggest questions I get as being someone out there in the fields of circus, circus medicine, circus science in general, people will email me, message me, all that, and they'll say, "Hey, uh, I have a hamstring tear. Do you know someone like me? Were they able to get back to training? Or I have to have a discectomy. Can I still do the thing I love?" And it's just so nice to have enough patient knowledge too to say, absolutely, I've worked with a patient who did XYZ and they were able to get back.
Yeah, yeah. So you are from the East Coast and then made your way into the Midwest, and then where do you currently live? And tell us about your current clinical practice.
Yes. My current clinical practice, I have a small clinical practice. It's an outpatient orthopedic practice, and it is called Pure Motion Physical Therapy. It is here in Seattle, Washington. So I made it all the way to the West Coast. And now I have a clinical practice where it is 93% circus artists. So I see circus artists every day, all day. I talk about circus, I talk about bodies and how they move in really amazing ways, all the time. And I have two part-time clinicians that work with me. Again, same thing. Our whole caseload is circus. It's
You know,
amazing.
that is such a special niche too, like just like serving very specific population and much needed from I mean, you've experienced, you know, head to toe all kinds of injuries, so they need your skilled services. Oh my goodness, that's great.
Well, one of the things that I think is really interesting is the question I often get also is, wait, how many circus artists is that? Like, how do you have a practice that's all circus artists? And part of that is because circus has been growing so much across the world as a recreational hobby. So when I say circus artists, I don't always mean sparkles and traditional performers. I might mean someone who's doing it after work 2 days a week. These can be hobbyists, they can be recreational, they can be professional too, but it really has grown as a hobby, especially for adults. I mean, kids, it's great, but there's a lot of adults out there maybe doing their first sport experience with circus as an adult, and there's a lot of people that need care, and the reason I'm able to have a clinic that's so full of circus patients is because they're looking for somebody who speaks that language.
Yeah. What about, do you also see like gymnastics, athletes, gymnasts in your clinic, or are they all up in the air?
I definitely do see some gymnasts sometimes. I will see some circus artists that are tumblers or partner acrobats as well. I'm also part of a dance medicine, performing arts medicine nonprofit here in Seattle. And so I'll see dancers and musicians as well, and actually probably more of those than I see gymnasts. So we make sure we take care of our performing artists. It's often so hard for them to find care.
Yeah, that's great. Share with us about your book, Applied Anatomy of Aerial Artists. How long did it take you to write this book and get this published?
It's a really good question. Yeah, I started teaching continuing education for circus instructors back in 2011, 2012. And what I found is I kept getting similar questions coming up, and I was teaching the same kind of continuing education course for them. And I realized, mainly because I have a friend who's in publishing, that I could put this all together and make a book. And my friend made it easy by just telling me, here are the steps. You know, when you don't know what the steps are, it's very daunting. When you can see what the little incremental steps are to get from here to here, it's easy. You go to school, right? You become, I go to my undergrad, I go to grad school to become a physical therapist, I get a job, right? We know those steps. That's daunting and hard and scary, but we do it because we know the little steps along the way. And this was the same thing. Definitely a shorter time scale, definitely a little bit easier. But having those steps in that process of, okay, go to the bookstore, look at other books that are like your book, find out who the publisher is, do research on their website about how to submit, look for that process of what do you need to submit, and have just take it one step at a time. And so I started working on the book and that process in 2016, probably spring 2016-ish. I submitted my final manuscript. So I finally found a publisher who would take it. That was hard. People are like, circus, probably how you guys all are now. Circus, that's not that popular. That's not everybody's doing that. And the publisher, same thing. It was had to convince them that this was a growing population. And, even what is 2017, even 7, 8 years ago, there were less circus artists than there are now. And so I had to do some convincing. So by the time I convinced a publisher this was worth doing and finished writing the manuscript, it was towards the end of 2017. And then the book came out in 2018. So it was more hands off by the time 2018 rolled around, and it came out in August 2018. So about a year and a half from start to finish. So it actually feels pretty fast when I say it that way.
I would say that is quite fast.
You would know.
My wife is a writer, and she teaches a lot about publishing, writing, the whole road to getting your work published, and she's in the creative writing, and so I know tons of passionate writers who have, put in 10 years into, writing and just cannot get their work published, and it's a long journey for them. So she reminds me that I am lucky that whenever I do work that I get paid.
Yes, exactly. As you know, writing nonfiction, writing textbooks, writing that kind of work, you submit an outline, an idea, and they pay you to write versus when you're writing fiction. It's so much harder. You could be writing for years and just be submitting everything that came from your heart and it goes nowhere. Oh, so hard.
Well, and that's why I have so much respect for the creative writers. But I also have a lot of respect for what you have done, because it's not easy to try to condense it into a book. So good on you. Now, you were one of the regional mentors for the Movement System Clinical Fellowship at Washington University in St. Louis, which sadly, there are no more Movement System Clinical Fellowship in the United States. That's a whole nother topic, but how has your understanding of the movement system really helped you to work with higher level athletes and the aerial artists?
It's actually so interesting because it comes back to the same reason why the program was appealing to me in the first place is I am a mover who relates to the world through movement. My patients are movers who relate to their health and their body through movement. So being able to use movement as a communication tool is just so powerful for them. They feel really empowered. You know, other clinicians might do more manual work or do things that help them with their symptoms, and they love that and they reach out for that all the time. But when you tell them that they can control their pain and they can control uh, how how they experience their circus life, their daily life, they know how to move. They know how to learn movement. They look at that and they go, "Oh, I can do that." You know, some of our patients might want the fast fix, but the circus artist says, "Oh, learn movement and I can fix it. I can learn movement. I do that every day. I can train a new movement pattern." They kind of like the challenge. And they're the most collaborative, amazing patients. So you give them an exercise, you give them the idea, okay, I don't want your scapula to go into an anterior tilt when you're doing a two-hand hang or something like that. And they'll take it and they'll incorporate that into the one movement. And then they'll figure out how to incorporate it into their other movements in a way that is just, I mean, we can get our general population folks to do that, but oh my gosh, they make me look so good. They make my job so easy.
I think that's a nice synchronicity, and I just had to write down this note: movement as a communication tool. I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful phrase too. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely. It's a beautiful communication tool. And we always talk about how it gets buy-in, but it gets buy-in because you're speaking a language that they can understand.
Yeah, definitely. Now, so you have your own private practice in Seattle. You have published this special book, and you also teach nationally and internationally on the topics of like really helping circus artists. What goals do you have for the next, say, 5 to 10 years looking ahead?
Um, my biggest goal is to really help explore and explain circus arts to clinicians. And the real reason for that is so many of our artists aren't getting the care that they need or the care they deserve. Just like we know with the general population, if there's low back pain, most people aren't coming and getting care for that. I feel like that's even more true in our circus arts, and that's because sometimes it's the instructor. They go to the instructor and they say, "Oh, it hurts when I do that motion," and the instructor may say, "Oh, it hurts me too." Right? No, that normalization of pain as part of a badge of honor in circus is definitely a thing. And so educating pressure, discomfort, delayed onset muscle soreness versus injury, damage, something that you need to seek care is something that starts in the circus studio with the instructor, and then educating clinicians so that when an artist comes to clinicians, the most frequent thing I hear from my folks is, I went to see my healthcare provider and they said, just don't do that. Or I had somebody earlier this week, she went to see her healthcare provider and they said, oh, but you have a doctorate degree in this and a master's degree in that, and you're a professional circus artist. You should stop doing that. You should do the things with your other degrees. She's like, I didn't come to you for business coaching advice. I came to you because I need imaging of my shoulder. Like, unsolicited advice of stop it, don't do that. You're an inappropriate age. That's for someone who's uneducated. Uh, all these judgments that we may not realize that we even have uh, come out. So it's also scary. So when you have somebody come into your clinic and they say it hurts, when I do this, and their arm is, back behind them or their butt is sitting on their head, um, the temptation is to say, oh my goodness, don't do that, especially if we don't know what goes into it. So the more we understand what goes into it, the less scared we are of talking to them about that movement. And the more knowledge we have about doing that movement, the more we're capable of helping them get back there. So instead of having that, oh my goodness, I don't understand it. I don't want you to get hurt because I care so much about the patient, we can have a more nuanced view of, I want you to not do that, but you can still do this. And maybe if you do that, I want you to do it this way, right? We can have those more nuanced conversations. So my next 5 to 10 years is spreading the word about circus so that clinicians are more open to it, so that our patients are more open to telling us what's going on with their bodies and communicating openly with us, so we can continue that loop and get them feeling better and feeling stronger to improve their health and longevity at whatever level. Because I mean, I think all of our goal is to keep people moving more and moving longer. And what better way to do that than something that brings them joy?
Yeah. So, if folks watching this video is interested in learning what you're teaching, where can they go to, learn this stuff?
Yeah. So you did point out my website, the circusdoc.com. On that website are some online courses and online resources so that you can find things, even like a vocabulary list of things to talk about, or words that are common in circus that might be new to your ear. And then there's all the way up through a 4 month, a 16-week online course where we get into everything. And it's gosh, about 70 hours worth of content and office hour time. So it is a lot of fun. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to circus, but starting anywhere is really great. So take that opportunity, find that vocabulary list. I can make sure you have access to it, to really start speaking their language, and using movements. Always a great way to start.
That's great, Emily. So I'll be sure to put in the notes section the link to your book as well as the circusdoc.com website so people can find your online courses. I mean, 70 hours, that's like a lot to take in. So what a great resource that we have. Now, next month, today is May, so next month, I'm so excited to be having you as my guest lecturer for the Japanese movement community. We call it Movement System Monthly Group. But if you could give the Japanese physios just a teeny preview or summary of what they are going to get to learn from you next month.
Absolutely. We are going to talk about specific movement diagnoses of the shoulder and what they look like in circus artists. So some examples of when we see a scapular with anterior rotation and internal rotation and anterior tilt, what that looks like in a circus artist, when is it more common, and what we can do about it.
That sounds great. I think the specific examples and the visuals, even if not all of the Japanese community are seeing circus artists. I mean, like we said, movement is that common communication that we're using about. So I think it's going to resonate with many people.
Yes,
So.
and even if you're not seeing circus artists, if you're seeing rock climbers, CrossFitters, gymnasts, a lot of these things kind of play in as well.
Yeah, a lot of people are hanging. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Japan has a strong gymnastics community as well. They often do very well in the gymnastics Olympics. So I'm sure people are going to be really, really excited to see this content. So thank you so much for your time, Emily. And
Thank you.
I'll look forward to seeing you next month.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your day.
Okay, you as well. Bye bye.